Dear students, today we will discuss about the important chapter which is called friction, and we will discuss about its applications. We will discuss about various concepts related to this friction. So, I am Balwinder Singh from Government Polytechnic College, Guru Tegh Bahadurgarh district Moga. So, friction is very important for an diploma student, because this topic is very important in our machines and our daily life, and this topic must be this understood by the diploma students. So, today we will discuss about the friction and its applications. So, let us first come to what is friction. Friction, which is called rugged in Punjabi. So, this we see in our daily life that when we roll a ball on floor, this comes to rest after covering some distance. Now, according to Newton's first law of motion, a body in motion can only be stopped if there is some external force acts. Only body can be stopped. A body in motion can be stopped. Now, this means there is some force acting on the ball which has stopped it, which brought it to the rest position. There is some force which must be acting on the ball. So, the force which will be acting on the ball, that must be in the opposite direction. This force is called force of friction. Or frictional force. Newton's first law says that this ball can be stopped only if there is some external force acting on it. This force which opposes the motion of the ball or any other body, that is called force of friction. So, force of friction की चीज है, the opposing force which comes into play when a body tends to move or actually moves on the surface of an other body. This opposing force is called force of friction, or simply friction or frictional force. So friction की चीज़ है, this is the opposing force which comes into play when a body tends to move or actually moves on the surface of another body. This is called force of friction. So one of the main characteristic of this friction is that it is opposing force. This acts opposite to our applied force. If we apply the force to the right side, the force of friction will be in the left direction. So it is always oppose the applied force, or it always opposes our motion. So the opposing force which comes into play when a body tends to move or actually moves on the surface of another body is called force of friction. What is the cause of friction? We have an old theory or old view. Any surface which is smooth, which appears smooth, actually has irregularities in the form of elevations and depressions when seen through a powerful microscope. कोई भी सरफेस विच अपीयर स्मूथ, जिहड़ा सानू लगदा कि स्मूथ है, but when it is seen through a powerful microscope, we see there are large number of irregularities in the form of elevations and depressions on the surface like this. This is the smooth surface, but when we see, we have like this. These are the depression, this is the elevation. So this, when we see through powerful microscope, this surface is not exactly smooth, it has some elevations and depressions. When we put a body A on body B, these elevations and depressions, they get interlocked. Interlocking of irregularities. And when we apply some force to move the body A on the surface of B, these interlockings oppose the applied force F and a force of friction appears in the opposite direction, which is opposite to the applied force, and we have to break up these irregularities before the actual motion of the body A on the surface of the body B. A body will move only when these interlockings are broken up by applying some force, but before the motion we see that the interlockings they get the irregularities get interlocked and oppose our motion. Once it is moved, new interlockings appear and again we have to apply force, but in that case the force is small. So, initially the force large force is required to move the body on the surface of the another body. Now, according to new concept, that friction is due to strong intermolecular forces on the actual area of contact. We have any material made of molecules. So, at the point of contact, these molecules they have strong forces of attraction which are called intermolecular forces. So, on this due to this intermolecular forces, if we have to move the body on the surface of another body, we will have to apply a force on the body to against these intermolecular forces. So, only then the body will move if these intermolecular forces are overcome. Once we move the body on the surface of other body, these intermolecular still exist, but then the force required is small as compared to the initial force when it is just moved. So, friction is due to strong intermolecular forces on the actual area of contact. So, these are the two concepts which are used for origin of this force of friction. So, old view is due to the interlocking of projections and depressions, and the latest modern view है which is called modern view, that is that friction is due to strong intermolecular forces or forces of attraction between the surfaces on the actual area of actual point of actual contact. So, these two views they give us the basic cause of friction, why this friction is there. So, these two views are taken. There is some limitation in the old view, that old view say that friction depends upon area, but experimentally it has been proved that friction does not depend upon area. So, the modern view is more important, so which explains our various other laws of friction. So, this is the cause of friction. Now, we can do an experiment. Suppose we have a body placed on the surface of another body. Its weight is acting vertically downwards, the reaction of the surface on the body, which is called normal reaction, if we apply some force, then suppose initially force is small, body does not move, this means friction is there. This friction is equal to applied force. If force is increased, body still does not move, then this force increases according to our applied force, but still this force of friction is equal to applied force. This is why this friction, which is called static friction, this force of friction is called static friction. Static friction means the force of friction when a body tends to move on the surface before actual motion starts. We have applied the force, but body is still at rest, but friction has come due to our applied force. So, that force of friction is called static friction. Static friction. Static friction उदों होंदी है when body has no actual motion on the surface of another body, but it tends to move on the surface of the other body. So, that friction is called static friction. It is denoted by Fs, static friction. So, static friction, as we have seen, when force is small, force of friction is small. When applied force is increased, force of friction increases. So, we say that static friction is self adjusting force. ये अपने आप ਨੂੰ adjust ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ according to the applied force. Applied force increase, force of friction increases. So, this is the one of the type of the friction which is called static friction. The second type is called kinetic friction or dynamic friction. The force of friction when which comes into play between two surfaces when actual motion starts is called kinetic friction or dynamic friction. पहले केस दे मोशन स्टार्ट नहीं होंदी. In this case motion has started but still friction is there. That friction is called kinetic friction. This is denoted by Fk. It is seen experimentally that kinetic friction is less than static friction, or static friction is more than kinetic friction. The value of kinetic friction is less than the static friction. Another term which is called limiting friction. When we apply force of friction comes into play. If is increased, force of friction also increases. Weight downwards, normal reaction upward. At the verge of motion, when the body just starts this force of friction is maximum. After it decreases, and this force of friction maximum is called limiting friction. Remember, the maximum force of friction when a body is to just start moving on the surface of another body, that force of friction is called limiting friction. So, we have static friction, limiting friction, kinetic or dynamic friction. Now, dynamic or kinetic friction is further divided into two classes. One is called sliding friction, second is called rolling friction. Sliding friction कदों आती है? When a body slides on the surface of other body. Rolling friction कदों आती है? When a body rolls on the surface of another body. You have seen in our daily life, in many cases the bodies are moved by sliding them from one place to the other, say a table, a chair, bed, or any some machines also, they are moved from one place to the other by sliding them. And there are many examples when body rolls on the surface of another body. For example, our vehicles, a ball is rolling on the a cylinder is rolling on the surface of another body, and when whenever there is any sliding, then that force is called sliding friction. When we have the case of rolls, when a body rolls on the surface of another body, the friction which comes in, that is called rolling friction. And this rolling friction is very much smaller than the sliding friction. Rolling friction ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ, that is the minimum. This is why most of the large machines they are moved from one place to the other by placing them on the rollers. You must have seen कोई बड़ी machine हैगी है, this is moved from one place to the other by placing it on the roller. So this is why rolling friction is very much smaller than the sliding friction. The invention of wheel is very revolutionary because it has caused the motion which is very easy, and rolling friction is very small. So two type of friction, sliding friction and rolling friction. So these terms are very important. Now then we come to laws of limiting friction. First law is limiting friction is opposite to the applied force. It is tangential or parallel to the surfaces in contact with each other. Force of limiting friction is directly proportional to the normal reaction. Limiting friction depends on nature of the surface, its smoothness or roughness. This force of limiting friction does not depend on area of contact, provided normal reaction is same. These are the laws of limiting friction. First is it is opposite to the applied force. Second, it is tangential or parallel to the surface in contact. We have seen when a force is applied, the force of friction acts along this direction. So this is the tangential or parallel direction which is, and third lies force of friction is directly proportional to the normal reaction. Fourth is it depends upon nature of surface, their smoothness or roughness, and force of friction, limiting friction does not depend upon the area of contact, provided the normal reaction is same. Then we come to a term which is called coefficient of friction. It is denoted by mu. We have studied from the laws of friction that force of friction is proportional to, directly proportional to normal reaction, or F is equal to mu r. This mu is called coefficient of friction. which depends upon nature of the materials. Different materials, they have different coefficient of friction. So, this mu is equal to F over R